Not a very long time ago, I would have classified myself as the kind of guy who tries his best to avoid conflict. Whether it's about a wrong order at a restaurant, snapping back at people making rude remarks, or actively engaging in debate about various topics, I would step back and let others take the stage, supporting views that coincided with mine when the case presented itself. However, to be positioned under a spotlight is something new to me. In life, and in a way with this YouTube channel. Just in case anyone's wondering, naming this channel The Second Perspective was a very deliberate choice. I know I'm late to the party, so I doubt I can bring something new to the YouTube video essay space when gaming is what I know most about. There's people out there that are way better than me. I'll list some of them right now. Anyway, I doubt I'll ever be the first to approach a certain topic, but I'm trying my best to offer a second point of view. Now that the tangent's over, I'd like to say a few words about my view on becoming a public person. I'm nowhere near there, but I thought about that a lot recently. When assuming such a position, whether you're an actor, a businessman, or a TikToker, you have people that come to you for your personality, who look up to you, and they may live in a different country, be of a different age, sex, race, or gender, immersed in a whole other culture, but they're here for you, your skills, your words, and your content. That means you're being blessed, whether you agree or not, with power. And we all know that
with great power comes great responsibility.
Let's talk about that. Regarding social and personal responsibility as a public person, there have been varied reactions from many famous figures throughout the years. The first one I'd like to discuss is, at least tangentially, one very relevant to the field of video games, and is perhaps the most recent. At the end of January this year, Tyler Blevins, better known to millions as Ninja, arguably the most prolific content creator in the gaming world, was featured in an interview with the New York Times. From the get-go, the title of the article, "Teenagers Made Ninja a Gaming Superstar, He Has a Message for Parents," paints a clear picture. Tyler is about to deliver a heartfelt message, aiming to educate his audience and his audience's parents. A person with his influence delivering such a message is, well, let's just say that having followed his career superficially, he seems like the kind of guy to make things happen. To many, he's a role model beyond his incredible skills, or blue hair. Unfortunately, my expectations were a bit high. Tyler's message wasn't going where I thought it would, much like, my dieting plans. Now, the interview is quite long, and I don't want this video to be exclusively about it. If you want to read it in its entirety and get the full context, which I honestly recommend you do, if I don't forget, I'll link it in the description. Tyler starts off talking about the messages he gets. Thousands telling him he sucks, bleep, people constantly letting him know if he is number one on Twitch or not, judging his business decisions, his gameplay, and so on. Personally, I agree, it's quite a heavy mental toll to deal with so much negativity, and I appreciate his talking about it. It's important to consider that the streamers or YouTubers you're trolling are people and have feelings. He then says, and I quote, "I could teach all these kids talking bleep, but when you reply to them, they're like, 'He said my name!' Their name is 69 Fart Sniffer, and you read their name, and their next comment after they roast you is them giggling like a little schoolgirl. Like, you noticed me. It's the worst." That affirmation already gives off a weird vibe, which may mean a misunderstanding of his position and his effect on viewers. It seems like in his eyes, if he were to try and teach people about, business or approach more serious topics, which he has done in the past, we'll get to that, they would respond with herder poggers instead of actually listening. For a certain loud minority, that's true. However, there are thousands or heck millions out there that listen attentively and would take what he says to heart. Negativity is ever present online. Like Ninja himself says, they are behind a screen, so anonymity gives them a feeling of power. But if you respond to a troll with a positive message, exponentially more spectators are going to understand and relate to that message. In my opinion, it's a net positive and it's worth doing. Anyway, moving on from this specific affirmation, Tyler continues by addressing the issues of education from the family side, where parents must teach their children that being edgy and using slurs online is not okay because it can harm others. A personal example is given, where Ninja is afraid of being banned because someone popped into his stream and said the N-word. This I agree with. And I know that despite existing moderation tools and filters, trolls will find a way to get to you. Vigilance is key. So remember when I said he's approached serious topics in the past, and we'll talk about it later? Later is now. At the beginning of 2020, when coronavirus was starting to become more than just a bleep on a poorly constructed radar, Ninja came out and said COVID was serious, it wasn't just a regular flu, and people need to be careful. Hindsight is 2020, I guess, and while he was right, his chat didn't agree. At least in his eyes, they didn't. The issue I have here is that, yes, there have been COVID deniers on the web since the first day it became a topic of discussion, but we have to take a few things into consideration. Tyler said, COVID bad, on a stream of, let's be conservative here, 10,000 people. Out of those 10,000, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 type messages constantly, while the large majority of the audience is passive, and that's not counting variables like slow mode or follower-only chat, subscriber-only chat, nor all the people who are watching VODs or hearing about Ninja's COVID bad rant from a friend. The point I'm trying to make is, if people disagree with you visibly and vehemently in a Twitch chat, they represent an extremely small and vocal minority. Giving up on trying to push positive messages out there means allowing that minority to reinforce their point of view without opposition. Discussion is critical, especially publicly. You can reach many more people than those who you know are disagreeing with you, and you can help more than you think, and that goes for anyone, not just public figures. Change starts from within your close friends group. The interview then moves on to other topics. Why Ninja doesn't game with girls, how things have evolved for him over the years, what he thinks about selling out, and so on. I don't have very strong opinions about any of those topics, and they're not super related to our main topic either, so... After reading his interview, it seems like Ninja is so scared of being cancelled, losing his audience, or ruining his career that he's taking an extremely safe approach. So safe, it seems, that it stifles discourse, avoids any potential serious topics, or even excludes people who identify as female from his streams from fear of things being taken out of context. While I understand all of those fears, I do feel sorry for him. To me, Tyler sounds like he just wants a format similar to TV, where it's him, the camera, maybe a guest, and there's no outside contact. Hopefully he finds a way to make that happen, although I do feel sad about him refusing to take any responsibility about his influence, his audience, and his online presence. Whew, this is the longest script I've written so far, and it's nowhere near over. Let's recap, shall we? With great power comes great responsibility, whether you want it or not. If you take responsibility, make sure that you're spreading positive messages. If someone hears those messages and reacts negatively, you have every right to remove them from your platform, and you should continue to spread positivity because there will be people tenfold that will heed your every word and change their behavior because they admire, like, or in some cases, idolize you. Ready to move on? Great. Let me just, rest for a bit. Don't say I didn't warn you. I'm late to the party. So, at the end of 2019, when we all had nothing better to do than go outside, hang out with strangers in closed spaces, and use public transport without washing our hands, Twitter, and of course the internet, was exploding. Legendary author and billionaire J.K. Rowling found herself bored one day and decided to come out as, well, unfriendly to the LGBTQ+ community, or at least to a certain sector. I won't bother with the details because I'm not as educated on the topic as I'd like, nor do I think I'd do a better job at explaining it than what ContraPoints did in her video, which if I remember to, I'll link in the description as well. I'm going to use JK's blog post from June 10th, 2020 as a reference, as it was created with a specific purpose in mind and contains clearly worded, well thought out sentences. Just to make it clear, I'm not going to go into the controversy in a lot of detail. Rather, I want to discuss the importance of a positive message and what that entails. especially considering JK's monumental success with the book series about a child living with abusive relatives and being different from everyone around him. So in December 2019, Rowling expressed support for a lady by the name of Maya Forstater, who'd been fired for what was deemed transphobic views. This caused an outrage, of course, and Rowling found herself in an uncomfortable position. That is to say, as JK herself writes, I knew perfectly well what was going to happen when I supported Maya. I must have been on my 4th or 5th cancellation by then. That's where I'd like to step in and say this wasn't the first time that she was accused of having not exactly open-minded and nor tolerant views, and it was clear to many that she had learned nothing. In this case, what JK chose to do was go down a path of blind faith in her beliefs and ignore criticism because, as she put it, sex is real. End quote. Then, Miss Author turned billionaire philanthropist liked some more controversial tweets, followed some controversial accounts, all while tweeting out more and more enraging things. Remember when I spoke about sending a positive message a little bit earlier? This ain't it. This is complete opposite of Ninja's choice to play it safe and totally offbeat when it comes to being positive. When I say positive, I mean inclusive and accepting and tolerant and above all else, patient. People will troll you because they dislike something about you, like they did with JK and like they did with Tyler. If your response to that is, okay then, bleep you, I'm not going to talk about this anymore, you're not only giving up, but also allowing trolls to infect people with the wrong ideas and views, people whom you could have helped out by speaking up more. If you chose to actively support people that are intolerant and put it all behind a curtain of, oh, but I care, just not in that way, or, well, have you considered this other, less relevant and badly argumented part of the problem, you're failing your audience and yourself as a public figure. I admit I feel somewhat insecure of what I've been writing here, so if you think I'm wrong or if I did get something wrong, I'm more than happy to have a discussion about it, so leave a comment and let's figure it out. If JK wanted to spread a positive message, that first tweet would have never existed. However, she spread an opinion about a topic that is honestly, from my point of view, not up for debate at all. In her blog post, she not only talks about the importance she gives to freedom of speech, but also about women who are terrified about trans people. If trans people terrify you, that's a you problem, not a trans problem. Not to mention, considering the UK's current political climate when it comes to LGBTQ+ inclusion and acceptance. As much as I'd like to respect writing conventions and add a third example because 3 is a magic number, I'm already intimidated by how much I've written. Moreover, I admit I'm unsure of my ability to continue on the topic without moving into even more unknown territory for me or repeating myself. I hope you got the point, but just in case. Once you gather an audience and become public, people start looking up to you, and you have an inherent responsibility to be a positive example to them. J.K. Rowling gathered an audience of millions with a series that ended years ago, and Ninja has seen more growth than any other streamer, and is watched by millions every day. With their success came a lot of influence, power, and of course, responsibility. That responsibility should not be ignored or avoided. It's important, and a significant part of the world we live in. If you make content for children, reinforce the thoughts of being nice to others, thinking critically, and so on. If your audience is mature, encourage civic involvement and an inclusive mentality, and the importance of voting and applying yourself to the best of your ability. Thank you for watching The Second Perspective. I hope you enjoyed this video. It took me longer than all of my previous ones to write, record, and edit, and I'm editing on PC with Adobe Premiere for the first time. I hope you have thoughts about this topic, and if you do, let me know, however you'd like. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully, see you next time.